Hi, my name is Julia Mellon. Today I'm going to be going over Chapter 5, which was over listening and how listening affects every single aspect of our life, including our professional, academic, and social life. And how if we didn't listen, we would not be able to communicate efficiently or build good relationships. For example, I work at a boutique, and whenever people come in, I ask them the norms like, how are you doing today? Are you looking for anything in particular? And some people just walk in and say, I'm fine, thank you. Or some people come in and they start telling me their life stories. And of course, I'm just taught to listen to them. But a really bad habit I have is I use pseudo-listening, which is when I'm pretending to listen and I'm acting like I'm listening. I'm making eye contact, nodding, but really it's just coming in one ear and going right out the other, which is a really bad habit of mine, and I know a lot of people have it too, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but in a work environment, if they asked me, can you go get me a size 6 in these pants, and I wasn't listening, and I brought them back as size 8, I can cause problems because they can say I wasn't a good worker, I wasn't paying attention to them, and although that's a small problem with listening, there can also be really big problems as well. For example, my mom works in healthcare, and listening in healthcare is super important, particularly in surgery, because if you're not listening whenever a surgery is going on and you're supposed to be writing down specimens, let's say you got something wrong, you made an error, but you didn't check and you didn't know you made an error. And let's say you switched the specimens for different people. This person had cancer, this person didn't, and you accidentally switched them. And this person has been getting treatment for the cancer when they don't have anything wrong with them, when this person is very ill but is not getting a treatment at all. That is a big mistake. And I mean, that is a huge mistake. And just from listening, because if you don't listen and you aren't engaging in a conversation like you're supposed to be, especially in a work environment like that, it can cause huge problems. And I'm going to go back to the good relationship part aspect on this. So a lot of people engage in empathetic listening, which is when a friend of yours is telling you a story and you're not really listening because you can admit it, it's easier to talk about yourself than it is to listen to others talk about themselves, especially if they tell the same thing 5 times. But if you want to be a good friend, you have to listen to them. And I know that sometimes it's hard, but you should never underestimate how it impacts someone else. So if you need to improve on empathetic listening, you can just try to stay engaged by asking questions instead of just sitting there like this listening or being on your phone and not listening. Try to ask them questions, because with empathetic listening, you're learning more about other people and your differences with them and their experiences, which may help you grow as an individual. So overall, you find out that listening can affect all of the aspects in your life. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Listening is the number one way to communicate, because if you didn't communicate, you would not be able to have relationships with people or be very successful in any environment. So that's very important, and some ways that you can improve these things are to pay attention, and if you go into something knowing that you're going to have to be listening, prepare yourself. Get yourself ready. Bring a notepad. Maybe take some pens and paper if it's for school or something. And yes, just pay attention and engage in the conversation. I think that is the number one thing I have a problem with. If I am bored out of my mind from this conversation, I just need to get back in the zone and try to focus myself in the conversation. So and making the other person feel like it's important. Even if it's not important to me, it may be very important to them, and that is just something you need to remember.